petition here.
Okay.
And we have the signatures of 885 people. We really are committed to the mission here, to increasing the reputation of the university, and it's difficult for us to do that when we have to do so much additional work in order to pay our rent. And so we're here with this. We hope that this is the first step in actual action. There have been discussions about this and an acknowledgement of the need for change, but without really any evidence of moving toward that change. So I am hopeful that you and President Tripathi or any of your representatives would
It's a big, complex organization.
For
so
sure.
Exactly.
So I don't know who we need to
Who
meet
the right
with
people are.
first.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really a big complex issue. Yeah.
Woo! I think that a lot of what President Tripathi and other administrative representatives have been saying is, the classic kind of, we understand, look, we're empathetic, but we're not going to do anything about it. And that really doesn't change the situation at all. To say that it's the responsibility of departments is also kind of skirting the issue, because the President Tripathi's office creates the budget that the department has. So the department, whatever department, can only do so much with a given budget, right? So if the university administration really was invested, literally, in this issue of, keeping graduate students able to do their highest quality of work by giving them a living stipend, they would figure out ways to prioritize the budget.
I was a TA for 5 years. That's the teaching assistant support package that I got. If we're not finished with our degrees at that point, then we are typically offered support as adjunct professors. So, and that's even less wage. We're paid about $2,500 per course in my department to teach composition. In my 5th year, I had a baby, and I was unable to afford daycare. I did not have access to any kind of paid maternity leave or anything like that. So I had to use my savings to survive the semester that I took off. I had her in the fall of my 5th year. And so then at that point, I had to use my savings to survive for the semester that I took off. And then after that point, I came back to teaching, but I couldn't afford daycare. And so I took a leave of absence after that semester, and I currently work for a nonprofit organization. I would love to come back, but I'm past the TA-ship point. So my participation in this is really just to raise awareness so that others can get a livable wage.
Provost Petron, may I ask you a question? In February 2015, you said in response to another rally, which was right out here, and that's 31 months ago, that you were working really hard on the issue. You're aware of it and you're working really hard on it. Could you please report to us on what you've come up with all your work?
The issue on that particular rally was on adjuncts, which was a related but separate issue. And
We'll take an update on either.
Yeah. All right, so where I can start with is that particular conversation was about adjuncts, and we have actually done a great deal of work understanding adjuncts and adjunct salaries and their roles and functions at the university. And hold on.
You were told then.
It turns out that we have adjuncts that fulfill a wide variety of functions that include professionals and those that also are ABD students who are working at the low level, who also need pay. I'm not going to deny that. So the issue of how to deal with adjuncts, it has actually taken us a long time to figure out. It's very difficult to simply reach in from the provost level and say, pay more.
I mean, talk is cheap. They can acknowledge it's a problem, and that's great, but they haven't done anything about it. Their only solution to this problem is to propose shrinking graduate programs, but not giving them more money. So to fix the problem, they want to squeeze us even harder, and that's ridiculous. The UB Foundation has $1 billion. Other colleges have come up with ways to work with their foundation to help programs, pay their graduate student stipends. So the president's finally admitting that it's a problem after years of people talking about low adjunct wages, talking about stagnation and stipends, like that's nothing. He should know it's a problem, and he should have admitted it was a problem a long time ago.
I think that the UB administration should really be ashamed of their reactions so far, because I don't think they want to hear us. We do meet, we do talk, but it's like the aim of these meetings is making us realize that we are wrong. Like, I see a lot of some kind of corporate jargon, some kind of like powerful defensive mechanisms, not to acknowledge that problem. For example, when we talk, they say that the solution they see is right sizing. You know, what kind of word it is? Like, right sizing means that we will not give you a raise, we'll just fire you. That's what right sizing actually means.
That is only 13,010 because we don't include RAs. RAs are different. And the same is, but this is also the number you could see, and this, I brought this leaflet for you. This is for TAs and GAs from other universities, and that's their median salary, which UB is not offering yet. So, and these are not RAs included. They have a different
So our
section for
numbers say
RA.
ours, it's
So if you-
17, isn't it? What is
I think
ours?
if you
Is
do
the number
TAs
that
and
we-
GAs, it will be not more than 13,010 or something like
So I
that.
don't know that number. We haven't run those, so I don't know if that's what the
Because UB never
number is.
negotiated. The other universities came forward. We sent a letter in 2014.
They're not putting enough emphasis on finding a solution to the problem. We've been bringing this to their attention for at least 2 years, I think maybe longer. Between adjunct wages and TA stipends, we've been making some noise about this for quite some time. And nothing's being done. And every time we talk to them, there are a whole bunch of platitudes about, oh, graduate students are the backbone of this university. They're so important, yada, yada. Well, if we're important, pay us. End of story. UB works because we do.
Learning how to be heard is maybe one of the most exciting sort of and challenging things that I've learned here at UB. And we're still trying to figure it out. But the movement began in our department, the English department, after they invited us to take part in a recruitment event. And someone just sent out an email and was like, hey, do you guys really feel comfortable, one, doing even more work for free for the department, because they ask us to do a lot of different free kinds of work to help build the department. And do you really want to help them recruit more people to go into debt and to sort of really struggle to meet all the various obligations here when they're not well supported? And we decided that this, just them saying that and pointing out all the problems that we've been facing got the ball rolling.
UB works because we do. UB works because we do. UB works because we do. UB works
Because we do.
The great thing about the movement is that it it attracted a lot of people with different ideas, different personalities, and so it means that the movement will be using and is using all sorts of strategies, ranging from talking to and trying to persuade the UB administration that the problem exists and that it's in their best interest to solve the problem and raise our wages. So like part of us still operate on the hope that we will be heard, that the UB administration will show some effort, show willingness to hear us. The other part of the movement, I would say, is maybe more realistic or more disillusioned with the contacts that we've had so far. And there is definitely an effort to engage in more direct action, so that if to make administration hear us, to make us their problem.
We're recruiting students. We're not recruiting labor. And that's the sort of philosophy. So we offer a merit scholarship, is the way I think about it, which includes the tuition, the benefits, and the stipend, so that you live on that cash. And in return, there's studies that are done, and a degree is offered. I mean, so that's the way we think about it. The money isn't meant as a wage. It's meant as to defray the costs of earning the degree.
As a wage. It works as a wage. And it's not a question of average, it's a question of minimum. If somebody is living on $13,000 a year and it acts as their wage, you can say there's an average wage that's higher. I'm willing to accept, we can talk about that. But if the minimum is lower, there are people who are treating that as a wage, single parents and people I know personally who have gone into huge debt, actually, and become quite skilled at cycling debt.
Right.
And regardless of the
It's a national problem.
So I think you need to start treating it, whether or not the bureaucracy wants to use language in a certain way, you have to start treating it as if it's a wage, because it is.
It's like constantly having to make sure that money is there, and it's often not. And I work additional jobs, plural. So, it as I was saying about the problem more generally, it's very difficult for me to get all my work done as a graduate student researcher, and then additionally, at my work at UB, and then my other jobs, it's like I run out of time for self-care as well. It can contribute to anxiety and depression and stuff like that too, mental health issues. Yeah.
When the UB reached out to me because they were looking for a teaching assistant who could teach at Polish studies. And they also offered a PhD studies in gender. So I was very, very interested in that. So I quit my job in Poland, I left my apartment, I took my family with me. And we came to the US to start my PhD program. And the program is really great, it's fantastic. I really enjoy access to the library and contact with the faculty. Yeah, but the overwhelming challenge that we came across is surviving on $900 per month with my family. And I just couldn't believe that what's the logic behind that? How am I supposed to support myself as a researcher here with that kind of money?
It sounds like the solution is cutting positions, which means cutting access to citizens of the state of New York to these programs. I mean, I think there's got to be another solution other than continued cuts to programs. I don't see how that helps including the college serve its mission.
So I'm very sympathetic with that, all right? So the question then is, where do you, there's a certain revenue that comes in, so you gotta either increase revenue, you gotta be more efficient in the way you're educating or delivering your services, or you reduce the number of people that are being paid off
Can I
that.
propose a solution?
Okay, sure.
SUNY Binghamton instituted with its roadmap, which is the equivalent of the UB Foundation, an across-the-board raise for their TAs and RAs. It came from their foundation. UB has a massive foundation, and so you have monies that you can mobilize, but what we're seeing is that you don't have the willpower to mobilize that money.
So,
there are precedents outside of the ones that you're discussing.
Okay.
Administrators have been giving themselves raises. Administrations have been bloated. So the administrations get bigger, administrators get $100,000 salaries. UB just hired 4 new marketing administration hires. So they're willing to spend money on themselves, which is the weird thing, okay? So they say times are tough, but we're definitely gonna feed ourselves and we're definitely gonna get bigger and get bloated at the top while you starve at the bottom. And that makes no sense. And this is following the same trend that's happening across America, which is, there's a 1% that has a lot and everyone else who has a little. And the last place that should happen is at a public university.
Do you recognize what this is?
No. What is your driver's license? What is it? I can't.
This is not a driver's license.
Where is it?
Oh, it's a New York State benefit card for SNAP and food stamps and
Part of your management strategy relies on subsidies through me having this. Once I start getting paid, I'm going off of it, right? But for the summers and stuff like that, there are students who get HEAP and SNAP, and that is actually indirectly funding your university.
I was looking into the program, and we teach undergrads.
Right, you collect the bill whether or not they have the money personally or not, right? And unfortunately, waiting isn't a thing because landlords don't wait, cops don't wait to evict you. I know somebody who had to take a loan from the School of Management because their adjunct pay got delayed, and then you have to pay back the loan. It's this kind of weird thing that the School of Management can apparently do. Because you can't just not pay your rent for a couple weeks and be like, okay, whatever. So apply that systemically to all of your students. Your stomach doesn't wait, the cops don't wait, the landlords don't wait. But you're telling us to wait. Well, wait for what?
No one at the university wants to see students starving. I mean, that's a horrible thing. We're proud of our graduate students and we want to see all of our doctoral students succeed. And I think there are really hard questions to face because the amount of money that we invest annually in graduate education has increased considerably and is continuing to increase. Graduate education is really, really expensive. It's an expensive model for educating undergraduates, and it's a huge investment. It's a smart investment, but it's a huge investment.
We have learned that more monitoring is required and that we need to learn more about what's happening at the departmental levels. The solutions that we're looking at involve changes in the way teaching is done at the departmental levels. Is that it has to generate more money. Other things have to happen, let's say within the college or across the university, that require spending money differently. And so you make a very good case for spending it differently, but it turns out it really is complicated in order to shift the culture of the university to teach better and provide better competitive packages for the graduate students that we're bringing in. So that's what we're doing.
Something we can start discussing tomorrow. We still have a meeting on the books, right?
Yeah.
I mean, can we talk about?
That's what I'm hoping we can do.
That's
exactly what I'm hoping
That's
we
what's
can
going to
do.
happen tomorrow.
It has been and will continue to be a difficult battle, but I think that I and a lot of others are willing to keep fighting it. So I don't know that it will happen soon, but you got to keep trying.
My American friends get second jobs, third jobs. I have a friend who, apart from doing her PhD research, works 20 hours as a teaching assistant at UB, and then additional 20 hours at Walgreens, and then additional 20 hours as a bartender in a Buffalo bar. So if you work 60 hours a week, how are you supposed to do cutting-edge quality research with that? So I think that UB has to realize that even if they produce wonderful new reports, how well they are doing, how financially okay they are, they have to acknowledge the fact that those figures in those reports are based on poverty, are based on discrimination, and are based on exclusion, and they have to be ashamed of that.
Based on my personal experience, I think that the university needs to have some form of paid leave available for students who have care responsibilities or are giving birth, things like that. Some sort of paid family leave would be really important. We don't qualify for the family leave program that was passed by New York State. We don't qualify for that as TAs because they say we're not working enough. We're under that. But I would like to see the university extend something like that to TAs and GAs and RAs, because we come to graduate school at a time in our lives when, that's when you have kids, right? We're that age. And so, it shouldn't be something where we have to choose between having a family and having the opportunity to pursue higher education. In this day and age, we should be able to do both.
Doing this work is really hard. It slowed my dissertation down. I almost didn't finish. I've talked about how we are all working second jobs, sometimes third jobs. Not everybody, but a lot of people. And this is another kind of work. But I'm really happy I've been able to do it. And I'm really grateful and inspired by the other folks that have been a part of this work. And it's hard, and there are a lot of disagreements that we've had. So, if any of these people are listening, thank you. You've been an inspiration, and I'm really proud of the work that we've done so far. And I'll be gone from this place, in a couple months. And I just hope that other people, can take my spot and take the spots of other folks who are leaving. Because that's how it's going to work. The administration's hope is that they can outlast us because we're only ever here for 3 or 4 years. But we want to keep coming.
Bullshit! 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 That's bullshit! Bullshit! Bullshit!
We'll be back! 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 Bullshit! 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 Bullshit!
They said a lot of the usual, it's complicated stuff, but also there seems to be an effort to continue actually talking with us as opposed to about us in private. Joe and I are meeting tomorrow. We're going to keep pushing. The purpose of the meeting is to develop a plan for next steps to actually address the issue. So we're gonna keep pushing.
It seems like you're meeting with the web spinners, like the people that just want to spin it and make it more complicated. Did you get a sense that that was not going to happen?
Who can give you what they want? What you want?
They're gonna say, oh, we need more research. We need to look into this further, and then they can defer it and defer it and defer it. That's what they want to do.
Yeah. When and where is it? The meeting is tomorrow at 2 p.m. and it is in this general area.
All right.
Yeah.
So
Consider yourselves informed. We'll be back. We'll be back. We'll be back. We'll be back.